wormholes, particle physics, extra dimensions. Are the wonders of so-called reality really what they appear to be? Or do we exist in an elaborate hologram? Is our universe the result of random activity or the result of intelligent design? If a creator was involved, can we discover him through our perception of divine order? This is Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck.
Welcome to a very special episode of Into the Multiverse. Actually, it's probably going to be a few episodes on this topic, but it's really weird and exciting stuff. With me in studio, my lovely, beautiful wife, Christina Peck. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, as I said, we're going to talk about some weird stuff, so we'll be telling everybody all about you.
I am quite weird.
No, actually, we're going to be talking about something called extra-dimensional Earth. This is a topic that we've been wanting to cover on this show for a while, but it's sort of like the quantum field theory episode. We're trying to figure out, like, how do we make this even remotely relatable to anybody? Because there's some weird stuff, but I think on the surface, it's not too complicated. I think people will find it interesting. And it actually has to do with a lot with creation in the Bible, even prophecy, where we're going after this life. You know, it's really interesting stuff. And I know this is something that you're interested in too.
I do. I like cosmology a lot. It's one of my favorite topics. Somebody at the conference last weekend was talking about physics and how they're really interested in that field. And
the Blessed Hope conference in Norman, Oklahoma.
Yes.
Yeah, by our good friends, Prophecy Watchers.
Yes, they're wonderful. They did a great job, by the way. Shout out to those guys. Bob and Gary are awesome.
Yeah.
So I had some people come over and they were talking to me about physics, and I let them know, I said, you know, my expertise on physics, I love all of it. It's a very wide and it's a very, there's so much in physics.
Yeah.
But my favorite was astronomy, cosmology, astrophysics is where, and rocket science is where my specialty lies in the engineering part of everything. And I said that, you know, particle physics is very interesting to me, but that's more your side, the particles and the waves, which is awesome. But I like the extra dimensional stuff. Yeah, it all ties together. But
that's what's cool about this topic, because it does bring all those things together. It's quantum physics and cosmology, creation in the largest and smallest forms. But this. We got interested in this when we found an article a while ago. This was maybe a year ago, about the Earth having extra gravity. The Earth has more gravity than it should, which is weird. And you know, most people would think, well, you know, so what? They just miscalculated or they didn't calculate it right. Well, these calculations are actually pretty accurate. Like they've got a good sense of how much the Earth should weigh, down to a really small margin of error, and how much it actually does weigh, and it's inconsistent. They are able to measure this based on the gravitational pull of the Earth on satellites. So they notice that satellites are getting pulled more than they're supposed to. And that's why those calculations are so accurate, because they have to be able to keep satellites up there without crashing to the Earth or flying off into space somewhere. You know, they got to keep it in orbit. But the Earth is supposed to be, which this is just way too big of a number to even comprehend, but it's supposed to be 1.317 by 10 to the 25th pounds. But the Earth is actually a little heavier than that. It's a fraction of about 1/20,000th. So there's an extra like 1/20,000th of the Earth, which doesn't sound like much, but
on a larger scale.
On that big of a scale, it's anywhere from 0.005 to 0.008%, which again is not a lot,
Right.
When you have something that's that big, that small percentage is actually a lot larger. So, for example, if the diameter of the Earth is 7,917 miles. If we were to take the same percentage amount, 0.005 of that, we would be left with 0.395875 miles, or about 2,090 feet. Okay. So that means if you were to take that percentage of the diameter of the Earth and turn it up on end, it would reach 2,090 feet up in the air.
Yeah. So
in those terms, that's we can kind of see that's a lot.
Yeah, that's another half a mile.
Yeah, it's huge. And actually, 0.005%. And so we're even talking on the conservative side, because they could say that they say that it could be as much as 0.008. Okay, like if we were just talking about the surface area of the Earth, that actually equates to 197 million square miles, which is about the size of Vermont.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Now, if we consider the entire Earth, not just square miles, but cubic miles, then the entire Earth is 260 trillion cubic miles. So that would mean that there are 13 million cubic miles of unknown mass somewhere. Wow. That's actually causing this gravitational pull, like this extra mass that can't be measured. They don't know what it is. They don't know where it is. So there are a lot of theories. The leading theory right now, the guy that actually discovered this, believes that there's a ring of dark matter around the Earth. Like that Earth has a ring, and but it's made of dark matter, and that's why we can't see it. Now, we've talked about dark matter on this show before, and we've talked about our idea of what it could be.
Yes, we talked about that, and it could be extra dimensional. Something extra dimensional. There are parts of our bodies that we can't even see, like the soul.
Yeah.
So why not the Earth? And
the cool thing about that is, if it is something in an extra dimension, it still would affect gravity. We would still expect it to affect gravity in some way. And this is what kind of led us down this path, because we were wondering, okay, the Bible talks about a lot of stuff on Earth that we can't see. If it truly is extra dimensional, like we believe that there's a good chance it could be, if extra dimensional and spiritual are essentially the same thing, then all the spiritual stuff that is on Earth, and much of it isn't, there's not all of it is, but it does talk about certain things, and we're going to be talking about that throughout this episode and probably for a couple episodes. But if there really are parts of the Earth that we can't see, and if it is extra dimensional, we should expect it to affect gravity. Meaning, and the way that would look is the Earth should have more weight than what can be measured. And we were thinking about that before we even found this article. It was actually that idea that led us down that path of research, and we thought, well, let's test that theory. Let's see if any scientist anywhere has mentioned that, this is weird, the Earth is heavier than it should be. There's more of a gravitational pull. There's more mass than there should be. And lo and behold, there are studies on that.
Yes. And think about it this way. Kind of going through extra-dimensional things and on the Earth, think about the strange phenomena that has happened. Wormholes opening, going through. Remember the pilot that I interviewed last year?
Bruce Gernon, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He went through a wormhole. There are certain things that they have observed. Different, it looks like strings or some sort of creature going in and out of existence in the air in certain areas, and it's more than just bugs on a camera.
Yeah, those rod things.
Yeah, the rods.
Yeah. I always thought that was really weird.
Yes, and so they would just kind of pop in and out of existence. Yeah. So there's something definitely extra dimensional going on. Yeah,
and actually, the Bible even talks about it, and it's not limited to just angels and things. Because I'm not saying, we're not saying that heaven itself is on earth. If it were, I think there's a lot more to heaven than there is to earth. Like it would create so much gravity, like it would just be too much, I think. So I think heaven is not on earth in another dimension, but I think parts of spiritual existence are. And I actually, pillars in the foundation of the earth.
Yes.
This is really interesting. So somewhere in extra-dimensional space, and I probably should say too, a lot of this comes from an appendix that I wrote in me and Derek Gilbert, our new book coming out, The Day the Earth Stands Still. It was going to be a chapter, but I decided, this is interesting, and this might explain some of the other things that we talk about in the book. But to make it its own chapter, I think it's a little disjointed. I just ended up making an appendix. So some of this is in there, but there seems to be some type of support system or something for the earth. The Bible mentions pillars and foundations of the earth. Job 9:6 says, which shaketh the earth out of her place, and the pillars thereof tremble. And it also seems that these pillars connect earth and heaven in some way. Job 26:11 says, the pillars of heaven tremble and are astonished at his reproof. So these pillars are referred to as of heaven, meaning they seem to exist as like spiritual or an extra-dimensional type of construct. And if we take that along with Job 9:6, then it seems like it's something that originates in heaven. It's not what I mean. It's not just an earthly construct. Like you couldn't dig into the ground in the earth and find these things.
Right.
You wouldn't see them. They would essentially be invisible. Really, they're in another dimension. But we also get other places where these pillars are referred to as being of earth instead of heaven, like 1 Samuel 2:8. So it seems like that it's of heaven and of earth. It seems like it connects the two somehow. So if these pillars are extra-dimensional, that could explain that. We even see how God can use spiritual pillars to complete his goals. Like in Exodus 13:21, it says, the Lord went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire, to,
that's right.
To give them light to go day and night. So we kind of have another clue of this extra dimensionality in Exodus 14:24, because that says, it came to pass that in the morning watch, the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians. So the text tells us that the Lord, singular, looked at the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud, both of them, plural, So was God in the pillar of fire, or was he in the pillar of cloud? And as Dr. Michael Heiser would say, yes. So it's really cool. We got some kind of extra dimensionality there. Now here's where this gets a little tough to envision, because we can't picture another dimension. We can't picture what that would be like. Best thing that we have is to picture one dimension lower, so flatland, which we've talked a lot about on the show. So imagine with this pillar idea, imagine that we had an actual two-dimensional Earth, a two-dimensional circle, and there were flatlanders on it. Now you could have something underneath this Earth, in the third dimension holding it up. You could have pillars essentially holding it up. And flatlanders wouldn't see it. They wouldn't be able to, they would have no way of knowing that it was there. They can't go up over the earth, they can't go under the earth, because to them there is no up or down.
That's right.
So they would have no idea it's there. I think it's something similar to that idea. And what's cool about that is you could still have the earth, rotating, moving around, orbiting, with this thing underneath it. Imagine like if you have the two-dimensional Earth and then you got a pillar under it. If I take the pillar and move it around,
it's still
the flatlanders would see their Earth
it's still set on a foundation.
Yeah, it's set on a foundation, and but they wouldn't know that.
Right.
They would look at it scientifically and say, well, it's rotating, and if I'm spinning it around and I'm moving it around. It's flying through space, it's rotating, but they wouldn't see like the propulsion mechanism.
That's right.
They wouldn't see me holding it.
Right.
So I find that really interesting, and I think that might be sort of what we have here. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it can be something like that. There's a lot of things that we can't see, and I do believe it's a small part of a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Because getting into the extra dimensions and even breaching that time a little bit, how in the Bible, in Ephesians, I believe it's Ephesians, where he says we're already with him. He sees us seated with him.
Right. Yeah, we're already seated with him in
yes.
heavenlies. Yeah.
Right.
Which is really cool. That's really interesting.
In the same, you can kind of take that and apply it to the extra dimensions, because we can't see us there.
Right, yeah.
He can, but we can't. We're still here.
And what's weird is when we're there, we might be able to see us now. But we're conscious and aware now here,
right.
Not there, but we will be, and then we are.
Yeah.
So it's totally weird.
Yes.
I love it. I think that's so cool.
So you can kind of marry the two.
Yeah.
You can, because we can't see us there, but he can see us there. We can't see the things that are holding this earth.
Yeah.
And the extra parts of it that are definitely there.
Yeah, all we see is a spinning sphere, spinning around, whipping around the sun.
Just
and
whipping around.
Yeah. but
not doing anything important.
Yeah, the way that we know that these aren't, well, actually, okay, we'll get into like what literal means and what spiritual means when we come back, because we got to cut for a break.
Yes.
So join us again right after this.
The Trump administration is now vowing to crack down and punish deep state saboteurs.
Today, America is being manipulated through a Washington-based shadow government.
This is a war now, the deep state against you and the President of the United States.
The artificial chaos engineered by elites and advanced by enemies of democracy is being propagandized by a devoted media machine to take down President Trump.
I submit to you that the establishment that you talk about, the so-called deep state, exists on both sides, the left and the right, and President Trump is up against both of them.
But this is not the whole story. A much more sinister quest behind the deep state is at work to usher in a final world order.
He's an outsider. He's not them. He's not part of the club. He hasn't been through the initiation rites. He didn't belong to the secret society. He didn't belong to the secret society. The secret society.
They're trying to cheat you out of the future and the future that you want. They're trying to cheat you out of the leadership you want.
Globalists, secret societies, and world power brokers anticipate the insidious arrival of a messianic strongman they call the Gray Champion. Now, for the first time ever, expert on occultism and best-selling author Dr. Thomas Horn joins a senior analyst from the Pentagon and a retired police detective to bring you the shocking truth behind an ancient cabal almost too fantastic to believe.
If these forces are successful, this country will not survive.
They have a plan for your future, but you can know their secret and stop them in their tracks. Get ready, saboteurs, how secret deep state occultists are manipulating American society toward a final world order.
America is being manipulated by sinister occult forces and a Washington-based shadow government. But now, for the first time ever, expert on occultism and best-selling author Dr. Thomas Horn is joined by senior analyst from the Pentagon, Colonel Bob McGinnis, and retired police detective Carl Gallups to expose these nefarious forces. Skywatch TV is proud to announce the Saboteurs collection. When you order the new books, Saboteurs, Gods and Thrones, and The Deeper State from Skywatch TV, you'll also receive free of charge for a limited time the exclusive oversized hardback collector editions of the classic 2-volume set, The Devils and Evil Spirits of Babylonia, and The Fallen Angels and the Heroes of Mythology. These two timeless masterpieces, finally in print again after 100 years, are the perfect gift for the scholar or Bible student in your life, and hold a retail value of over $60 all by themselves, but are included absolutely free when you purchase the limited time Saboteurs collection. But that's not all. You'll also receive the never-before-aired DVD Off the Record, featuring exclusive interviews with Dr. Thomas Horn, Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis, and Detective Carl Gallups, further exposing the dark secrets of globalist elites and how to stop them in their tracks. This content is only available in this exclusive offer and will not be aired anywhere else. Finally, you'll also receive The Shadow Hand, the over 24-hour Steve Quayle and Tom Horn definitive audio series on CD. This audio collection discloses the terrifying truth behind the infamous WikiLeaks dumps, the shadow government, and so much more. This unprecedented special offer sold separately holds a retail value of over $175. Yours now for only $29.99 plus shipping and handling. The holiday gift season is coming, and you won't find this collection anywhere else. So don't delay. Order the Saboteurs collection for somebody you love now at skywatchtvstore.com or call 1-844-750-4985.
Welcome back to Into the Multiverse. So right before the break, we were talking about, because I almost said, and I want to be careful how I say this, I almost said, the way that we know that this isn't literal, it is, people I think get the wrong idea of what literal actually is. When something's not literal, or if something's spiritual, or if something's metaphorical, it doesn't mean it's wrong or it's a lie or it's false.
No.
It doesn't mean that. It doesn't make it any less true. Actually, in a lot of ways, it's more true. But it's not that these things aren't physical, but because they are. But it's not something that we could see in our physical space. So it would affect gravity. We wouldn't be able to see it. We wouldn't be able to have any kind of interaction with it because it's in another dimension, but it can still connect to the Earth, just like the pillar under the flatland Earth can connect to their Earth. And even if they, dug into their own Earth, they would never be able to find it because they don't have that. So we also, going back to the foundations. Okay, so in order to prove a point, God is asking Job a series of questions. And this is really cool. And this is from chapter 38 of Job. So it says, where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare if thou hast understanding. I should have got the ESV or something. I think this is the King James, and it's a little lispy. If thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Or who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened, or who laid the cornerstone thereof when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? That passage is already important because it defines for us who the sons of God are from back in Genesis 6.
Right.
But the point of these questions is to show Job that there are things going on that he's unable to know. God wasn't looking for a literal answer from him. It was to show him, like, look, who do you think you are? I'm God, you're you.
Yep.
Get it together, man. But where was Job? At the foundations of the earth, he wasn't even born yet, and this was a completely unknowable time. Where are the foundations fastened? So as we saw earlier, it seems like they're fastened in heaven, somewhere in extra-dimensional space, which again would be unknowable to Job. So the whole point isn't to teach Job a science lesson here. It's to tell him, look, there's a lot more going on than what you see. I'm the one in control. You're not. So you need to trust in me that I know what I'm doing. This also brings us to extra-dimensional waters in the firmament. And there's a lot of, the firmament especially, there's a lot of question as to what that means. Some people have some ideas. We tend to disagree.
That's okay.
And that's fine.
I have good friends.
My whole deal with that is I get why people want to believe that it's a literal physical three-dimensional thing, that exists in our space.
Right.
I personally don't agree because I think that there's a lot of times when we talk about when it talks about these constructs of the earth, like the four corners. That's another thing that we could get into, or the firmament, or the pillars and the foundation. All these things. There always seems to be spiritual type of language associated with it. Like the four corners, there's like angels involved. There's always some kind of spiritual, we would say extra dimensional.
Yeah, I was just going to say extra dimensional aspect.
Yeah, and now it is true, they did have back then, a certain view of cosmology that we don't really have today, or many of us don't, some do, but I think you could take those same exact Bible verses and make a case that this is extra dimensional constructs going on, and actually have it supported with science because of this extra gravity thing.
Right.
So it's just a different interpretation, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we're not trying to start any fights with anybody.
Nope.
This is just what we believe. And I think it's one of those things. It's like if you have something wrong with you, you go to a bunch of different doctors, and depending on their specialty, that's the answer you're going to get. If you see an oncologist, you have cancer. If you see a dermatologist, you have a skin condition. I kind of think of it that way. We're into quantum physics, so we see it in places that other people might not.
Right.
It doesn't mean we're right, and it doesn't mean we're wrong.
Right.
It's just a different interpretation. So, and I wanted to make sure that we laid that out.
Of course.
Before we get into the firmament stuff, because there are times that people will try to start fights with us over this.
I'm not going to fight.
Me either.
I don't want to. I love you just the same. I don't want to say you're wrong, because I could be wrong, and I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to say that I'm wrong, you're right, or you're wrong and I'm right. I just don't think that's the way to handle it.
Yeah, me too.
I have very good friends who tend to disagree with my view, and we're friends just the same.
Sure. Yeah, same here. And so I don't have any problem with the other end of this.
We all have limited information.
Right. Yeah.
We all don't see the big picture, because
just like Job, we can't.
We're right here.
Yeah.
We're in 3 dimensions. We have a 4th dimension aspect to us, which is our soul, and that is all we have. We have text from the Bible, and it's how you take that text.
Yeah.
We're not wrong, we're not right. There's more to it than what we can see.
Yeah, and we might have a piece of it. And there's a lot of situations where it might not be either or, it might be both and.
Yes.
It could be two things could be true, even if they seem mutually exclusive on our end. That doesn't mean that they necessarily are. So there's different ways to interpret different passages, and as long as somebody's doing it for the glory of God, and they're not trying to say, well, Jesus isn't really the Savior, or if they're trying to say, Yahweh is evil, and here's why, that stuff is all garbage. But if it's just something like, well, what's the pillars of the earth? Was that just a wrong idea that they had back then, or is it like a physical thing that is really there, or is it something that's like in heaven and we can't see it, but it still interacts with the earth somehow? There's different ways to look at it. And I think it's good to keep an open mind and to have a dialogue. Well, it's all really interesting stuff. Unfortunately, we are all out of time. So thank you for joining us once again into the Multiverse. And until next time, take care and God bless.